Okay, guys, we are starting in 1 minute. And is everybody able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. If you don't mind, this is going to be an hour-long session. Please mute yourself so it doesn't disturb anybody. I will keep asking if you have any doubts throughout the session, so then you can unmute yourself. Sorry about that. You can unmute yourself and talk. So let's get started. We are at 8 o'clock. Okay, so first of all, what is Apex programming, right? So Apex is a language to write code, okay, which computer understands to perform some logic, business logic, okay? So just like any programming language, you have Java, C, etc. These are different programming languages and they are very similar to each other. And if you are someone with no programming background, don't you worry, I'll start from the very basics. If you feel like that I'm going too fast, do let me know. I'll try to pace down. And anytime you have any questions, just ask. Okay, so let's get started here. Okay, Apex is a programming language used by Salesforce developer, and this programming language should only be used when something cannot be done out of the box. So now in the declarative side or in the out of the box side of Salesforce, you have things like flows are there, which can do a lot of things. You have flows in general have grown a lot, so things that was not able to achieved using um, f- flows earlier, now they're being able to do that. So it is a programming language used by Salesforce, but there are still certain things which cannot be done when the requirements get too complex, when there are too many conditions, where the flows doesn't make sense. At that point you will use Apex. Now it says Apex is a strongly typed language. Now what is the meaning of the word strongly typed? Strongly typed means when we talk about variables, everything you need to declare first. Okay, so you have to declare it before you use anything. So if you are using any variable is, think of a variable as a storage in the memory that stores some value. It can store a number, it can store somebody's name, it can store somebody's age. So any variable is nothing but it is to hold some value. Okay, and anytime you have to use a variable, you have to first declare it. That is the meaning of Apex is a strongly typed object oriented programming language. Object oriented means that it is built around objects. What objects are, we will see it. It is very similar to Java like syntax. So if you are coming from Java programming, it will look very familiar. And it enables Salesforce developer to add business logic to events by button clicks, record update. So let's say on a click of a button, you wanted to get the information the user has filled in a form. Let's say there is a form, and inside of the form there is a button. On the click of this button, you wanted to send all this information to an external system, and you wanted to go ahead and create a record in that external system. All this, in order to do something like this, you will need to write a programming language like Apex. Now, something similar can be achieved with flows, but if you have too complex of a logic, if you are talking to multiple systems, this is expecting data in a certain format, it could be a little bit complex. In that case, you will use something called as Apex. So Apex, the couple of things you need to remember, it is a programming language used to write code, used to write business logic. It is a strongly typed language, which means everything has to be declared. Okay, and it is an object oriented programming. Object oriented, we will take a look at it once we talk about classes, and it has a very similar to Java like syntax. Now in this series we will be using um, Visual Studio Code, but not today or not this week, but from next week we will use Visual Studio Code. Okay, So if you don't have Visual Studio Code, I will give you all the instructions to download it. That way it will give you much more real world experience of using a Visual Studio Code IDE. Okay, now what are the different features of Apex? So through Apex you can do a lot of things. You can insert records, update records, delete records, make changes to the Salesforce records. You can do all of that. Okay, strongly typed language, again, easy to test, and it upgrades automatically. So these are certain features of Apex programming. Now, when should a developer choose? Sometimes when things are cannot be done through out of the box features of Salesforce, only then you should be using Apex, not all the time. Okay, so a lot of time if you're coming from programming, you try to write triggers for everything or try to write Apex. That is not a good suggestion from Salesforce. Salesforce tells you to first do things using out of the box features like flows, approval processes, validation rules. And if things cannot be done using those, then only go for Apex. But a lot of times, a lot of companies have written a lot of code. Now, tell me why you think writing code is not a good solution for easy task. Why Apex, when you write Apex, there is one important thing you have to do when you write an Apex class. uh, does anybody know what is that?
Testing, writing testing class.
Exactly. So when you're writing Apex, you always have to write a test class as well in order to deploy this code to production. Okay, you need minimum of 75% code coverage in order to push anything to production. So this basically adds a lot of maintenance to your uh, system, and you need a developer who understands programming who can only write in Apex. So that is why it is not a good idea to write smaller tasks using Apex. Only use Apex when other options are out of the picture. Okay, any questions so far, guys?
I have a question. Maybe it's not related, but you mentioned it's very similar to Java. So when it's come to compare between Salesforce, so sorry, Apex and Java, would
Hmm.
it make sense to say if you know Java, you know Apex too?
Okay, so if you know Java, you can you still need to catch certain syntax of Apex because certain things are different in Java from Apex. But if you are coming from Java background, the learning curve is literally a week or two. It's nothing more than that. So you don't need to sit down, learn inch by inch, because Java, whatever is in Java, the similar stuff, the methods, the classes, inheritance, those things are there. But learning about batch processes, triggers, integration, those are different from Java, but the syntax wise it is very similar to Java.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Deepika. I have a question. As you said that we should we should use Apex unless like there's nothing else we can do. So, are we supposed to already know the flows at like at good level?
It flows, yes, because especially even as a developer you should know about flows. You should know the different types of flows, when to write which type of flow. Yes, you need to have a good understanding of flows as a developer also.
So, is it like a prerequisite for this class or?
No, there's no prerequisite of knowing flows. But knowing, because once we go a little bit advanced, I will be creating like a screen flow or something like that. Uh, but knowledge of, as a Salesforce developer, because the end goal is to get a job as a Salesforce developer, you should know about flows because it's one of the very important topic in the admin side.
So, do you suggest some courses where we can learn?
We can connect. Like if you can send me a message offline and I can share one of my courses that are there, or you can refer to any other courses. You can either go into the website or Udemy as well.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. Now let's look at the how the code is written in Apex. Okay, so this will look little overwhelming for you, but these are major components in this Apex class. Okay, so the first thing that you see here is a public class my first class. So everything is written inside of a class. Okay, everything has to start from a class. So this class is visible outside in a particular namespace. So there are different modifiers that are there, and we won't go deeper down, but just understand when you declare something as public, it is publicly available within a certain folder. Okay, that folder is called as namespace. So right now in our classes we won't be going into namespaces because there is always empty namespace or default namespace that's there. So anything inside of that namespace, everybody will be able to see each other. So if that's, let's say, uh, this is a folder and inside of that you have created a car class or an employee class and both of them are public, so car will be able to see employee, employee would be able to see car within this folder. Now, another important thing is you have to use a keyword called class. Now, what do you mean by keyword? Keyword means they have special meanings. Okay, special meanings. So, class is one of the keyword that is available. So, first thing is you have to use public, that tells you that this class is accessible outside within that namespace, and then you will use the keyword class and then the name of the class. Now, name of the class can be anything. Usually the name of the class always starts with a capital letter, remember that. So first thing is public. Okay, that tells you that okay, this particular class is accessible to everything else within that namespace. Then you will use the keyword class, nothing, as it is, just small c lass, this is called as the keyword. And then the name of the class. Now name can be anything as long as it is starts with a capital letter, that is a good practice. And then after the name of the class you are going to have, this is not allowed, this is the curly braces, this and then end. So that tells you class starts from here and ends here. Okay, class starts from this curly braces and ends at this curly braces. Everything that you're going to write, you will write within this class, always remember that. Okay, now the first statement you see here, what are we doing? List account, list of account. So this is a variable declaration. Okay, we will go into depth what how to do variable declaration, but this statement is, it looks like a variable declaration. So what we are doing is we are creating a list. List means which can hold multiple elements, more than one element. Okay, if you wanted to store 10 account records. So you are saying list of account, list, and then what kind of elements to store? Only of account type. And this is the name of the variable. LST account is equals to new list of account here. Okay. Any questions on this? We will go in depth into this is a declaration of a collection. Okay. And what a collection is, we'll talk about it. But just think of this as that, okay, this is a list which can hold, this is a variable which can hold list of accounts. And then, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I have a question. So
Go ahead.
conf I keep mixing up um the scope of the class. So it's when it comes to the class, it's always
Mhm.
between these two brackets, right? So
This one right
we have a
here
lot
and
of
then this
yeah.
one. Correct.
Okay.
Okay. So everything you have to write within these curly braces.
And everything we have between these two curly braces have can have access to each other, right? Like we have a lot of
Yes,
methods.
yes.
Gotcha.
Within this, everything inside of this will be accessible to each other.
Okay. Thank
Okay. So now here, this is a variable that I'm creating. So basically, yeah, go ahead. There's a question.
So Deepika, there are parentheses also, right? After class name.
No,
What does
so
it
this is
signify?
wrong. There's no parenthesis. This is wrong. Okay.
Okay.
My first class and then this curly braces. Okay. So now here I am creating a variable of the type list of accounts. So this can hold only records of account type and the name of this is called lstacc. You see here, this is the name of the variable. Okay, so this is called as variable declaration. Now, right here, if you're coming from database background, you probably have seen a select statement, which is something called as SQL in database terms. We don't call them SQL, we call them as SOQL, Salesforce Object Query Language. And here what they're doing, they're saying select ID, comma name, comma description from account. So from the account table, fetch me three columns. One is the ID column, the name column, and the description column, where name like test. So I'm just giving you an overview. If there is something you didn't understand in this syntax, don't worry, because this is giving you a good Apex look and feel of how Apex class is written. So I'm saying give me every account where the name is like test. Okay, so where the name is like test. Then what they're doing is they're creating another list here. Okay, just like you created one list, there is another list you are creating, and the name of this list is called as is account updated. This is another list they're doing. There is should be an equals to sign here, just like here you have an equals to sign, equals to new list of accounts. Then this looks like a loop. Loop means going over it. Loop means going over or executing something multiple times. That is called as a loop. Okay, so what we are doing here is we are iterating means going over step by step, one record at a time, whatever is available in this list. So if there are 10 records, this loop will run 10 times. Okay, if there are 5 records, this loop will run 5 times. Loop will run 5 times means whatever you have written within these curly braces, that is called as your loop. These instructions will get executed. Okay, and then what you have, there is a if statement. We are checking if this account updated is not equals to null, and you're checking for two condition. Okay, if this is not equals to null, and if this size is greater than 0, do something. Okay, make an update to Salesforce. This is called as a DML statement. So this is how in nutshell an Apex class is written. If you don't understand anything, don't worry, because you will understand this class after at least 2 to 3 classes. Now, let's talk about the most important thing here today. We have something called as variables. Okay, as I mentioned to you, what is a variable? Variable is like a building block. Okay, anytime, let's say I asked you, give me sum of two numbers. Num1 is equals to 20 and num2 is equals to 30. Okay, num1 is equals to 20. So what you did is we have to first declare this variable. How do you declare it? Declaring means you have to tell what kind of data you're going to store in this variable. So there are different data types that are available in Apex depending upon what type of data you want to store. You can store somebody's name, you can store somebody's age, you can store somebody's weight. Okay, you can store somebody's date of birth. Okay, time of meeting. Okay, or there could be date and time together you wanted to store. So based on that, there are different data types that are available in Apex. Okay, and whenever you want to use a variable, you have to first tell what is the type of that variable. And once you have defined a type for the variable, only those kind of values could be stored inside of that variable. Okay, so first thing is, if I have to create a variable called num1, so I'm going to say integer. Integer is basically to store numerical values which do not have a data point. So integer num1. Now num1 is nothing but is called as the variable name. Okay, this is called as the variable name, and is equals to, you can define some value inside of that. You don't always have to define it, but you can define some value inside of a variable by using this equals to sign. Equals to 30, that means inside of this memory, let's say we have a space. That name of the space is num1, and what is the value it has? 30 in it. Similarly, I am declaring another variable. So how do I do it? Same way, integer, because it is storing integer values. And what is the name of the variable? Num2. Okay, so this is another thing in the memory. This is called as num2. And what is the value it holds? It holds value of, let's say, 30. This one holds the value of 20. Okay, so anytime you have to use a variable, you have to declare it. When you say declare it, means telling what is the type of that variable. And the moment you have told the type, you cannot change the value inside that. You cannot change the type. So if you have said this is num1 is of num, this num2 is of the type integer, I cannot put somebody's name in it. Okay, if I try to do that, this will give me an error.
So it's just
Any
like a field, right? It's just like your variable is just like your label, right? And then your declaring is just the type of
Yes,
variable. Okay.
yeah.
Makes
So
sense. Yep.
yeah, so basically, because you will need to use variables to hold values. Okay, so what kind of value that variable is going to hold, you have to first tell in advance. You have to declare it. And you also have to give a name for that variable, so in future you can reuse them. Okay, and I can change the value of the variable. So for example, integer num is equals to 20. So at this, and always use this semicolon. Okay, where to use a semicolon, this will come with practice. Right now majority of the instructions end with semicolon, but there are certain instructions that don't need semicolon, and that will come with practice. So now here num is equals to, okay, tell me what is the data type of this variable. What is the data type of the variable?
Integer.
Integer.
Integer. Very good. What is the name of the variable?
Num.
Num
Num is the name of the variable. What is the value of the variable?
20.
20.
20. Okay. So I can go ahead in the next statement, I can change it to 30. So what is the new value? Okay. Once you have declared the variable, you cannot declare it again within the same scope. Okay. Always remember that. So when I say within the same scope, we will talk about it. But once you have declared a variable, you cannot say integer num again. You cannot say that. You can change the value of this num. So what is the new value of num has? What
30.
is the new? 30.
30.
Okay, 30 is the new value. So the value inside of the variable can be changed, and you cannot redeclare a variable again once it has been declared. Okay, somebody has, and can you guys mute yourself so it doesn't disturb others? And then so now this is okay. Another important variable that you will use a lot is of the type string. What is a string? Any, if you want to store some somebody's name, okay, uh, address, so anything that you write inside of double quotes, okay, that's inside of double quotes is considered, oh sorry, in 1 second. Okay. Anything that you write inside of a code is considered as a string. So even if you write a number, that makes it a string. If so, you have to store somebody's name, let's say Deepika, now that becomes a string character. Okay, and that is a string data type. So the variable is of the type string. And there are a lot of different types of data types that are available. We will talk about them. So now let's understand variables. Variables are used to store information. For example, if you want to calculate someone's age, you need to store their birth date. So here, this is, okay, what is the name of the variable here? Name of the
First,
variable?
first name?
First name. And what is the value in the variable? Deepika.
Deepika.
Okay. Am I declaring this variable right now?
No.
No.
No, very good. Because here I am not specifying what type of data will this variable has. right? I just said first name is equals to Deepika. If I had said string first name, that means it has something of the type string. And what is a string? Anything you write in quotes, it makes it a string. Always remember, string is something you write inside of quotes, single quotes. That makes it a string. Okay, how many variables am I declaring here? Like, how many variables are there?
Three,
3.
Okay, what are the types of those variables?
two, string, and integer.
Very good. Okay, I expect more from the people who are completely from non-programming. People who know programming, I will request them to let others talk, just to want to make sure, because I want to make sure you guys are following me. And the best test would be if somebody who is a non-programmer can understand me. That means the people who already have some programming knowledge will definitely understand. Okay. Now, so that is about the variable. So now declaring a variable is, before you can use a variable in Apex, we need to declare the variable. So declaring the variable means telling the type. Okay, this is the type of the variable, this is the name of the variable, and this is the value of the variable. Value is not something you always have to define, but you always have to declare it by the type and the variable name and then a semicolon. Declaring a variable means define the type and optionally setting an initial value. This is optional. Every variable in Apex must have a name and its data type. Data, data type means what type of data the variable will store. Okay, so the variable can be of different types. Now let's understand here, this is how I'm declaring it. This is a string, this is the declaration of the variable. The first is the data type, then the name of the variable, value is Deepika, then again the string. I could also have said similar thing like this. I could have put it in one line, string first name comma last name. I can do that also. So basically what I have done here is, if they're of the same type. Okay, so here I am declaring two variables, first name and last name, both of them are of the string type. I can do something like that also, but I can't say integer and one some string together. Okay, I can say integer num1 comma num2 comma num3. That means how many variables I have declared here in this, how many variables I have created?
3.
Three,
Three variables. And in this statement,
two.
very good. Okay, I'm going a
So
little easy right now because this is our first class. Now different types of data, so you have different data types depending upon what kind of data you are going to store in that variable. So excuse me. Okay, so we will talk about the very basic data types. Okay, which is also called as primitive. Then you have, so they will only hold one value. All of them. Integer, basically any number without a decimal point. Double, anything with a decimal point. Okay, if you have to store 35.75, then you need a double, not an integer. Okay, if you want to store a large integer value, okay, into 10 raised to power 17, something like that, then you will use long. Okay, then if you want to store somebody's birth date or meeting date, etc., then you will use, they only have date part, there is no reference of time, they don't store any time information, only the date information. Okay, date time will store date as well as time. String, anything in the single quotes is a string. ID, if you remember, every record in Salesforce has an ID, right? If you log into Salesforce, if you go to account record, you open up that record, every record has an ID. So in order to store that, you will use an ID variable, variable of the type ID. Boolean, there's an A missing. Boolean either can store only two types of values. Either it can store true or it can store false. That's it. Nothing other than these two values can be stored in a Boolean data type. Okay. Now, they can only hold one value. So if you have to store um, lot of values, let's say I wanted to store all the student names that are available in this class, so let's say we have 15 students. Now 15 students, I cannot, one way is creating 15 variables of the type string and storing each person's name in those variables, or I can create a collection of the type list and I can say, hey, string names is equals to new of list of string. This is how you declare a list variable. We will talk about it later, but this is how you declare. So this names can have more than one string value. It can store 10, 100, 200. It can store any number of elements inside of it. Okay. So that is a collection type. Now collection is of three types. It could be a list, it could be a set, or it could be a map. What is the difference? We will talk about it later. Then S object. S object is basically any object in Salesforce. If you created an account, if there's an account object or a case object, or even if you created a custom object, the parent type, okay, is called as S object. Okay, S object means every object in Salesforce is of the type S object. S object is basically the main class, okay, and then every other object is of the type S object. For example, vehicle, right? A car is vehicle, bike is a vehicle. You have what do you call uh, cycle, bicycle is a kind of a vehicle. So vehicle is the parent class. Similarly, S object is the parent, and all of these are nothing but the child. Then you have something called as enums.
So sorry,
Enums, go
so
ahead, go ahead.
I have a
Yeah.
question. So when it comes to a subject, does it matter if it's a custom object or a standard object?
No, it
And
doesn't matter.
what is the difference when it comes to a subject? Is there a relation between like standard objects are primitive and custom objects are not primitive, or it's not right?
Okay. So S object, to answer that question, I didn't get the second part, but to answer that question, S object doesn't mean that it only can hold a standard object. Any type of object that exists in Salesforce is called as an S object. Okay? Any type. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, so any type of objects called a subject. When we declare them, we use a subject.
No. When we declare them, you cannot say S object because it will be confused what object are you talking about. So whenever you're using them, you will always say account, or you will say lead, or you will say opportunity, or let's say you created a standard custom object called shoe order. You will always use the actual object name, but behind the scene all of them are called as S objects. That's all you need to remember. You will never use a data type of called S object, never. 99.9% you will never use it.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Okay. Then another data type is classes, objects, and interfaces. Okay, so as I told you in the brief, we created a class. From class, you create is objects. Okay, so let's do a first example and then we will talk about it. Okay, so here I am going to go over to my
So
here.
you missed enums. What are enums?
Okay, sorry, I was talking about enums. Okay, so enums is basically when you have a static, when you have a set of values. Okay, let's say you wanted to store a season. Now, season can only be winter, fall. Once we'll do an example, things will be clear. Winter, fall, summer, spring, these are the seasons. So if your data falls into one of these category only, always, it can either have a value of winter, it can have a value of fall, summer, or spring, then you will define something called as enum. Enum is basically can only have a certain set of values. Similarly, if let's say you wanted to create an enum of status, right? Status could be in progress, cancelled, active, inactive. These are the couple of values that you can store. So for those cases, you will use an enum. Does that make sense? When you have a static, when you have a certain set of values only for a particular variable, well, okay, variable can only have these four types, then you will create a variable called as enum. Does it make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks.
Okay, awesome. Okay,
Can
now,
you please explain this again? It's not clear enough.
so enum is basically something which which only can have certain set of values. Okay, so let's say I created an enum called season. Now season can be either a winter season, it could be a summer season, it could be a spring season, it could be a fall season, right? Only these values, if you want, or a certain set of values if you want, then you will define an enum. So enum can fall into, if that variable can have either a value of winter or a summer or a spring or a fall. Similarly, I can create another enum which is called as status. Now status could be a in progress, okay, it could be active, it could be inactive, it could be completed, it could be cancelled. Okay, so if you want that a variable can have values either one of these value at a time, then you will define a enum of the type of the enum, and you will define the values it can have. Does it make sense, Ripti?
Yes, Deepika. And it means it's a kind of some constant value you are passing it
Yes,
down. Is it
yes,
like that?
yes, it's kind of like some kind of constant values. It
Okay,
won't go
okay.
outside of that range. Okay, but once we do an example of enum, things will be much more clear. Now let's go ahead and I'm going to do some examples and then we will take it. So here, okay, so first one, I am not um, creating a class. So anytime you have to test the output of your program, so in order to access, we are going to use something called as developer console. Okay, developer console is where you can write your code. And the way to access it, you log into Salesforce, you click on the gear icon, and then you go to developer console. Okay, from here what you can do is there is a file new, you can create apex classes, you can create triggers, visual force, lightning application, all of that. You cannot create a lightning web component, and we don't have to worry about that yet, but you can use majority of the things in developer console. Okay, and here, if you have to quickly test something, okay, if you have to quickly test something, you have this window called as open execute anonymous window. So whatever code you will write inside of here, you can test it right away. Okay, we don't have to create a class or anything like that. If you have to create a class, you will go to file, new, apex class. But if let's say you just want to test a piece of code, you can just come over to the anonymous window and you can test it. Okay, so now I have some code that I'm copying from here, and now you have to tell me, and I'll explain to you what's going on, and I'm going to remove these constants. Okay, so always there's one important thing here, system.of_debug. Now system.of_debug means if you want to display something on the screen, okay, if you want something to be visible, then or you want to display something, you will use this statement. Always remember system.of_debug. Let's say I want to print the value of a variable, so what will I do? I will say system.of_debug, and then you will put these braces, circular braces. Okay, and then whatever you write inside of quotes, anything that you write inside of quotes will be printed as it is. So student name, this will be printed as it is because it is inside of this quotes, this quote and this quote. So anything you write inside of quotes will be printed as it is. And now you want to print this student name, so you will have to use, this is called as concatenation operator. Okay, this is the concatenation operator. So This side will be printed as it is because this is written in single quotes. Then you're using a plus and then student name. Now this student name is not inside of quotes, so basically that means you're referring to a variable. You're referring to a variable. Now what is the value of student name, guys?
Deepika.
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 That's
So first,
Deepika.
okay, so first this statement will be printed as it is, then Deepika would be printed. Now what will be the output from this line?
5 will
95.
be there. 5.
This line, what will be the output?
95.
Total marks 5.
95.
Oh, sorry,
95.
95. So sorry. Yeah.
Okay, so total marks will be printed as it is. Whatever you write inside of the quotes will be printed as it is. And then you have plus. You always have to use a plus if you are concatenating something else. Then what you're doing is, you see here, you're not redeclaring the variable. You have declared the variable here. You are not redeclaring it here. All you're doing is you're updating the value of total marks to 98. So what will be the value? What will be the debug statement will print?
Updated marks 98.
98.
Very good. Updated marks 98. Okay. So always remember, the code executes from top to bottom. It will never be random. It will not be like, okay, first this statement will get executed, then this statement will get executed. No, you can always remember the code flows from top to bottom. Okay. So now if I want to, is everybody understood this example that I gave? Is simple example.
Yes.
Okay, so now if I want to execute it, I'm going to go ahead and click on open log and click on execute. And then you will click on debug only. So you see this checkbox. So you can see here, first statement, what it printed, student name Deepika, total marks is 95, updated marks is 98. Now here, if I did something like this, system dot of debug, okay, you have to tell me the first name Deepika, okay, my name is, okay guys, so now tell me what will be the output of this program.
My name is Khanna and I love to teach.
Yes. Okay, so as everybody understood, what will be the output here?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
this thing is in the quotes, so will be printed as it is. And Deepika, this is a variable. So whatever the value inside of the variable would be replaced. This is another variable. So whatever the value inside of this will be replaced. And this is again in, sorry, 1 second. I had to use different codes. That's why I was like, why the color is not there? Okay. And then it will print, and I love to teach. So if I go ahead and execute it, go to this, and this is what it gets printed. Now, if I needed to add some space here, all I need to do is add here space, and then again do a plus. So now again, because this is a string and this is your last name, so now it will have some space here, and my name is Deepika Khanna and I love to teach. Okay. So this is a simple example you did. Now we will talk about another important thing, which is a class. Okay, before we go to the, okay, before, let me explain to you these primitive data types that we have. Okay. So integer, as you can see here, integer, it's a 32-bit number, doesn't include decimal point. Um, always remember, a 32-bit number will hold a smaller value as compared to a 64-bit number. Okay. So at 32-bit, this is a small, if this can hold a small value, which means if you want to go, if you want to store a large number of large value, then you will use long. So integer and long is pretty similar. This is just to, it also stores just number, no decimal points. Long also stores just number, no decimal points. Okay. Decimal, a number that include a decimal point. So if you have a decimal point, you will use a decimal as the data type. Double, also it is a 64-bit number that include a decimal point. So these two will include decimal point. These two will not include decimal point. Okay. Boolean, as I mentioned to you, a value that can only be assigned either true, false, or null. It could either be of these three types. It could either be true, it could be false, or null. Date, date, a value that indicates a particular day. So this is a date. It can only store only date, no time information. If you want to store time, you can just the time part, then you can use the data type as time. Date time will hold date as well as time. Okay, so now we will not go into here. Before we go this, I want to talk about a very important thing, which is called as class. Okay, so because we are starting from class, so I have to explain to you what is a class. A class is a template or blueprint from which objects are created. So whenever you create a class, for example, let's say if I ask you to create a house, right? When I If you have to create a house, you don't just go get the land and start building something, right? You first create a design of that house. You use an architect and he will prepare a design. Through that design, you will tell him, okay, is it a two-story house, it is a one-story house. You will tell him, okay, how many bedrooms it has, how many square footage it should have, where should be the living area, where. So you basically telling all these properties, right? You're going to tell the number of bedrooms it has, number of bathrooms it has, all these things. So it is just a blueprint, and using that design, you can create multiple houses, right? You through this design, you can create multiple houses. Similarly, a class is a blueprint. Okay, it doesn't occupy any memory, and through this class, with the help of this class, you can create multiple objects. Okay, so what will happen is, let's say you created a class. Okay, you created a class called employee. So how do you create a class? As I mentioned to you earlier, first you will use this keyword public. Okay, then you will use, sorry, public is the modifier, access modifier, class is the keyword, employee is the name of the class. You will use these braces, and here you will say, okay, every employee has a name, so I will say string name. And what will be for the age? Integer age. Okay, and let's say it also has string email to store the email. Okay, and it has a method, everything is inside of these braces. And now from this class, if you created objects, okay, you can create an object by saying employee, the name of the class, emp, that is, let's say, the variable name of the type employee, equals to, you have to use equals to new, this is another keyword, new, and then again the name of the class employee, and close bracket open and bracket close, and then a semicolon. Okay, this is how you create an object. This is called as declaring the class. This is called as object. Now what is the type of this object? Employee. Okay, so now this employee will have its own name, will have its own age, will have its own email. Similarly, I can create another employee. I can say employee emp2, let's say, is equals to new of employee. So now what happens here is, this employee is another object now. Okay, this, how many objects have I created? This is number one and this is number two. This object basically will have its own name, have its own age, have its own email. Okay, so from the class, you create objects. Okay, are you getting my point?
Can you explain it again? I don't get it.
Okay, no worries. So first, let's understand this. What is a class? A class is a template or a blueprint from which objects are created. So from the class, you create objects. Okay, object is also called as an instance of a class. Okay, now how do you declare a class? For you will we won't talk about private, public, global. You will use public access modifier, then you will use the class. This is optional, this is all optional, so you don't have to worry about that now. Class, then the name of the class, and then this braces, and then this braces. So how, once you have created the class, what do you do with that, right? So you create objects for that class, and through that class you can create hundreds of objects. There is no limit how many objects you can create, and each of those objects that you create will have its own copy of those variables that are declared inside of the class. And how do you create an object? First, you declare a class, right? So here, let me explain to you, very simple. So here I will go ahead and create a class. File, new Apex class. And I'll call this as employee. And inside of this employee class, okay, I'll declare a variable public string first name, public string last name, integer. Public means if I want to access this variable outside of the class, I need to declare it public. Otherwise, I won't be able to access it. Now, where do I need to access it? I need to access it from this anonymous window. Okay, it's public integer age. And let's say now here, simple class I've created. Any questions? Now, this class can have methods. We'll talk about it later. But what I have done here is I have created a employee class. Okay, you can see here, which has three variables declared, right? First name, last name, age. Now I'm saying from here, from this outside of the class, because I have to, now I've created a class. Now, what is the purpose of the class? You can create objects or instance of this classes, and I can create n number of instances. So here I'll say employee, this is how you create an object. Employee emp1, this is the variable, is equals to new of employee. Remember, now look at the syntax here. Okay, employee is what? Nothing but this is the class name. Then this is just like you said integer a, this was the variable name, this is the name of your object emp1. Okay, this is that whole object, it is referenced using this name emp1. Now emp1 will have everything, will have a name, will have first name, it will have last name, and it will have age. Okay, so emp1, I can say emp1 dot of first name. So if you want to set up the first name here, you can say emp1 first name is equals to John. emp1 dot of last name is equals to Smith. Okay, emp1 dot of age equals to 30. Okay, I can create another object and another object. This variable name emp2, this emp2 dot of first name emp3. Okay, so now tell me, how many objects am I creating here?
3.
Very good. Steve Coppell, age 35. Okay, so how many objects am I creating? 3 objects here from the same class. Okay, and each of them can have their own copies of their variables. These variables are called as instance variables. Okay, so here I'm gonna go ahead and say, okay, So first of all, this is how you create an object. You use the class name, then the variable name equals to new. New is the keyword you have to use. You cannot use anything else. Is equals to new. And again, the class name, then these braces, and then this semicolon. Okay. Now from this class, employee, you created three objects. EMP. So now tell me, what is emp1 dot of first name? What is the first name of emp1?
John
John.
John.
John. Excellent. What is the last name?
Smith,
Smith. Very good. What is the age of emp1?
30,
30. Okay. Now another object I have created is emp2. What is emp2 first name?
Steve,
Very good. Steve. What is the last name?
Coppell.
Last name is Coppell. So that is the meaning of objects. From this class, I created multiple instances. Instances means object of this class. Now, what is the age of EMP2?
35.
Okay, very good. Now, what is the next one? This is EMP3. EMP3 can have its own copy of these variables. So, what is the first name? This is very
Uh,
important, guys, because once we talk about static and non-static variables, you will be amazed the difference between them. These are non-static variables also because they don't have the keyword static in them. Tomorrow we'll talk about static, non-static, all of that. First name, what is the first name?
um,
Rahul.
Rahul,
Okay. Last name?
Henry,
Henry. Very good. And what is the age?
40.
Okay, so now how many objects I have created? Three objects.
3.
Now, if I want to display them, I can say something like, I can say system dot of debug. Instead of doing this, okay, I can do public. This is called as a method. Public void. Ignore it for the timing. Public void display. I can write system dot of debug first name plus first name system dot debug last name and then system dot debug age.
Can you repeat what the system debug definition is again?
System
I
dot
missed it.
debug, basically whatever you write, it will just print it. That's all it does.
Oh, it'll
It is,
just display. Okay.
yeah. But whatever you write in quotes will display it as it is. Anything without quotes will be considered as a variable. So whatever the value of the variable would be, that will be displayed.
Okay. Makes sense.
Okay. And
Thanks.
then you always have to use a plus to concatenate because this is with the quotes, this is without the quotes. So you have to use a plus operator, which is called as concatenation, to display it. Okay. So we will talk about this display method tomorrow, but understands that this is a method. Okay. Just like I'm using emp1 dot to refer to this first name. If I have to call this method, I have to use emp1 dot of display. Anybody wants to tell me what will be the output of this program? What will be the output of this program?
John Smith.
What will this will print?
It will display first name, then last name,
Last
then
name.
age for
Whose
all
first?
three.
There are three objects, right? Three objects.
All.
Whose first name will it display?
So first it will display employee ones, that's John Smith, and then employee two, then employee three.
Because of this thing, employee1 dot display. So it will display whatever the information you have it in the employee1, right? So in the employee1 you had John and Smith and 30. This will be displayed. Now you're calling employee2. What is employee2 has? Employee2 has Steve Coppell 35. So this first name will refer to who is calling me. Who is calling? This EMP1 is calling. So EMP1's first name will be used. Who is calling me? If EMP2 is calling me, what is EMP2 first name? So this will be printed. EMP3 means who is calling me? EMP3 is first name, last name, and this. So Rahul, Henry, and Fori will be printed. Okay. Any questions?
Deepika, I just want one small clarification. So what I understood, like object and instances,
Are the
they are
same
the
thing.
same, right?
Yes, they are the same.
Okay, thank you.
Either you call them an instance of the class or you call them objects of the class. It is the same thing.
Okay, thank you.
And these ones are called as instance variables. These are called as instance variables. Why they are called as instance variable? Because each instance, which is nothing but each object, have their own copy of these variables. So this has its first name, this one has its own first name, and if you create another object, that will have its own first name. Okay, so that is it for today's class. Any questions, guys? Did you, before you leave the class, I want to make sure you understood each and everything we discussed in the class.
Are we
Uh,
gonna be sent the slides that you talked over today?
Okay, I will okay, so one more thing I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to create a drive, and this is a new folder I'm going to create. New folder, and this is Salesforce weekday batch, and inside of this I am going to create notes. I'm going to create assignments because I will be giving you assignments. I will be creating another folder for recordings. Okay, so we'll upload the recordings, and then the other one is the notes. Okay, so this link, I'm going to share it. Make sure you don't delete anything. And I'm going to go ahead and put these in here. Okay, this is the drive. Everybody should have it. And I'm going to put inside of this, I will upload two things. One is, this is the presentation I've used. And here, if you just want to go a little bit ahead, this is the file I used. Okay. Okay, so now you will have the access to the PPT as well as the document I was using. Okay, and I will upload the recording tomorrow, not today, it's already 9 o'clock. I'll upload the recording. Watch it if you, in case you missed anything, and we will see you tomorrow same time at 8 o'clock. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, guys.
Thank you
Thank
very
you. Have a good
much.
night.
thank you, Deepika.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.
Deepika, just quick one. How many weeks are these classes? Is it 12
So
weeks?
guys, it depends on you. Okay, I can finish the syllabus in 6 weeks, and I don't want to rush into it. I want to take it a little bit slow because I want everybody to understand. If you think I'm going too slow, I will expedite it, but my imagination would be at least 6 weeks.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay, guys, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.